question that I get oftentimes is, how does the Southern Baptist Convention work? Or actually, I should say that a question I wish I got more was, how does the Southern Baptist Convention work? Because we know that we have this big denomination, but and it's structured so that there's this cooperation that's from the bottom up, and the leaders basically execute the will of the people. But there's a committee on committees, a committee on nominations, and help us figure out how this stuff works together, Amy.
Well, so one thing that can get confusing, we say it's not top down, it's bottom up, but it's very easy for us to think in structures that we may know, governmental structures that we understand in a certain way, that you say, okay, the headquarters of the SBC, people want to say that it's in Nashville, Tennessee, where the executive committee is, or where Lifeway is, or whatever. But the truth is, the headquarters of the SBC is in the local church. And that's not just a saying. A lot of people say that and think, they kind of laugh it off. But that's not just a saying, that's actually true. So part of the way we work is that very central to Baptist identity is understanding the autonomy of the local church, which means that when we say it's not top down, it means that that no one is sitting somewhere telling the local church what to do. The local church is governed by its members. But then you step back and say, well, how do we cooperate together? So what we are part of is it actually, as I said in an earlier video, denomination is a good word for us to use because it's known. But when we say Southern Baptist Convention, that's because it actually is what we are. We are a convention. We're a convention of churches. And so a convention is basically a form of a deliberative assembly. So it's a form of people coming together. And it's a large group of individuals, usually serving as, we call them messengers, but, serving, representing in a way other groups, so messengers coming from churches. But the fascinating thing is it only exists in the moment that it's called into session. So for us, that's 2 days. So the Southern Baptist Convention only actually exists for 2 days out of the year. When the gavel goes down on Tuesday morning until it goes down on Wednesday afternoon when we all head back to our churches. So it lasts those 2 days, and that's where we do our business. So all the people are coming together from churches all across the country to come and help make decisions about what we're going to do the rest of the year. And so then all of these groups, the executive committee, all of our entities, our seminaries, our mission boards, they spend the other 363 days a year, or 364 if it's a leap year, they spend the rest of the year doing the work that has been sort of commissioned to them by the messengers on those 2 days. And so in a sense, that's why participating really matters. That's why the coming together, the voting, the being a messenger and being a part of things really matters, because on those 2 days, that's when the decisions are made. Now, one of the reasons we have all these committee structures. We have a committee on committees who then nominates other committees. They put people into place, which the messengers then vote on those and kind of give their approval. One of the reasons that we have those in place is because you can't get thousands of people together for 2 days and make all the tiny little decisions. So they are approving of people to kind of handle this for them. But at the end of the day, the actions are being taken by the messengers coming together. And so it's interesting because, like I said, we think of it as this kind of big machine and this structure, but it really actually is a gathering of people coming together, making a decision about the mission that they are going to do. There are places where, and this is why we wrote the book, is to kind of help people start to figure these things out in smaller parts, where it seems like it's too much to understand. The bylaws, maybe people don't want to, spend a lot of time looking at them. But the truth is, these systems are put in place to help us work better, to help us work more smoothly. And the more people get involved, learn how it works, learn who people are that are being nominated for things so they can begin to help make decisions, the better. So that's how it is. But it's really amazing when you start to say, no, it actually only exists for those 2 days. When we pass resolutions as a convention, those resolutions are actually, I mean, they're dated, and that's important because it says the Southern Baptist Convention meeting in this year said this, made this statement. And those nuances are really important because it really speaks to who we are, to the identity of who we are.
That's fantastic. So you have this meeting that's 2 days a year.
Yes.
And then you have all these other entities, as we call them.
Yes.
The Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, the North American Mission Board, the International Mission Board. We have 6 seminaries, the WMU, and just all these different entities. Right. Tell me how those groups relate to this meeting that meets for 2 days a year.
So they all come now, and you mentioned the WMU. That's the one group that is an auxiliary. It's not an actual entity. So it's a group that sort of meets with us and is supporting the work of the Southern Baptist Convention, particularly of our missionaries. But then we have all of these other entities that have actually been tasked with things. They have ministry assignments. So when we are giving financial support, when we're even the simple things that seem, almost mundane, but when we pass a budget, when the cooperative program, which is as mentioned before, is when our financial resources go from our churches, they go through the state conventions, and they go on to the national level. Then they are dispersed according to a particular budget, certain percentages to different entities, 51% to the International Mission Board, and then the other 49% is dispersed in specific ways. So we're supporting their work. They've been given specific ministry assignments. They have trustees who, through our structure, through the Committee on Committees, that's appointed by the president. The president is elected by the messengers. So that's kind of how the cycle goes. The messengers elect a president. The president appoints a committee on committees. The committee on committees then brings to the messengers a committee on nominations. The messengers respond in approval or amended reports to that. The committee on nominations then brings a slate of individuals to serve as trustees of our entities. So it's kind of this circular thing, but at every point the messengers have a voice.
And I think just one point to interject, then the board of trustees for each entity then are those who the presidents of our entity heads that we know so well are accountable to.
Yes, they're accountable to those people. So then what we know is that during the year, those trustees are working on behalf of Southern Baptists to steward the different entities. And then when we come back together every year, there are all sorts of things that happen. There's business that happens, all of these votes, but then all of those entities come forward and make a report to the messengers of that annual meeting. And essentially that's their moment to share what's been going on in the previous year, to let everyone know, here's how we're doing, here is what's happening. And it's not just it's not like a recruiting pitch or a sales pitch. It's actually a moment to say, you need to be aware, Southern Baptists, of what is happening, and so we're here to tell you, to share that. And even part of their report allows opportunity for discussion and questions for people to be able to come to those leaders. So it's as I said, it's kind of a big circle, but it's one that always comes back to an opportunity for the messengers to participate in what's happening.
Yeah, and when our presidents of the entities come before our denomination, come before the messengers that the churches have sent, it's an opportunity for the presidents to say, this is how we've stewarded our cooperative funds. And also to celebrate what God has done in the midst of that.
That's right.
And so that's fantastic. So the SBC is a web of relationships, no doubt. And it's great to be a part of this. I mean, and as you kept mentioning, it keeps coming back to the pews. The people who are in the pews, participating, being a part. And so I love how our board of trustees for all the entity heads are made up of normal people.
That's right.
And so they're the ones who are truly entrusted with, helping guide our entities along with the presidents, and then, just on up the chain. So the Southern Baptist Convention, a web of relationships.